Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast by Jose Osorio.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jose Osorio, and today I have the pleasure of having the Dean of the College of Business here at FIU, William Hardin. He's been a very special mentor to me these past couple years at FIU, all the conversations that we've had together, and he was at our graduation. So, Mr. Hardin, thank you so much for having the time, and how are you doing today?
Everything's great. If you don't know what day it is, it's the coldest day in Miami in the last 2 years, but we're enjoying it and giving us a treat as to why we enjoy it normally when it's not like it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So,
good
stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's usually a little better, maybe 85, 90 degrees, but today we have, 40 degrees?
The wind chill's in the 40s, I guess. But it reminds me of a story one time. We run a program with Regensburg University and the real estate group over there. It's a dual degree program where you can get our degree and the other master's in real estate from Regensburg. And every time I talk to the senior leadership over there, we always laugh, the world's changing, this or that. But their comment is, it's always cold in winter here in Germany, and it's nice in Florida. So Florida has a competitive advantage, and a lot of people from Europe love coming here because of the weather, because of the inclusive environment we have with people from all over the world. But it was interesting because they're going, it's dark and it's cold in Europe in the winter. So everything's relative.
Exactly. I mean, everyone has different tastes, but again, that's something we're going to get into a little bit more today about real estate here in Florida and FIU, how the program continues to grow. But that's the number one reason I would say from the people that I've worked with in real estate why I end up here. Mr. Hardin, tell me a little bit more about your background in real estate, how you even came to FIU in the first place. I would love to know a little bit more about that.
Okay, so when I was a child, what we would do on the weekends is get in the car and drive around and look at real estate. My grandfather was a real estate investor. Many of my family members are involved in the real estate industry. I have a cousin who's the past president of the CCIM group in North Carolina. So real estate has always been somewhat of a family passion, a family set of things that we all talk about and deal with and enjoy talking about. So from a familial component, it's people talk real estate in my family. Now, from a professional standpoint, I got out of my master's degree. It was in international business and worked at what is now Bank of America, and over time moved out of the international group to the real estate banking group and did that for 6 years and worked there for a total of about 10 and a half years. But mostly what I did there was commercial real estate lending. Got a PhD in real estate, have studied it, have the opportunity to not only look at real estate but evaluate what makes markets work, which is, if you ever think of anything or you're curious in real estate, you can study that and say, if somebody told me that, but I don't believe it. Okay, they told me every retail center had to be on the going home side. But what's the going home side in North Atlanta? Because everyone's just driving everywhere. There's no going home side.
Right.
So you're able to study that in academia and say, well, is that true or not? So I started doing a lot of research and ended up coming here to FIU now 19 years ago to reestablish the master's degree in real estate at FIU. And I did that. We started the Hollo School of Real Estate with a gift from the Hollo family, Ted and Sheila Hollo. We still get a lot of support from the family, but that's allowed us to grow and create probably the largest master's program in a college of business in real estate. We also have the undergraduate program. And we do it because you cannot differentiate Miami and Florida from real estate. Okay? Real estate in our state, in our region, is what we call part of the economic base. That means that it brings money and income here. And people go, that's unusual because typically real estate is a non, economic driver because it's simply local. Right. Well, our market's not local. We have people who come from all over the world to live here, to live here part-time, to own property here. They pay to acquire the property, they pay someone to manage it. It is, in essence, part of that economic base that's been part of Florida for the last 100 years. If you look at Florida, we have a great program. We have other universities in the state system that have real estate. So as a state, we probably have 3 or 4 of the top real estate groups of researchers and programs in the United States. Miami's real estate, Florida's real estate, and it's a business. And what we do is we teach the business of real estate, not just one component.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I also majored in international business.
Right.
Graduated this December here from FIU. But how did that degree, knowing how international Miami is, I mean, we're the gateway to Latin America.
Right.
People from Europe come here, from Asia as well, to either buy or invest or even live in properties. I mean, kind of putting all that together, how did your degree in international business help shape your career here at FIU and now here at the Hollo School of Real Estate?
Okay, so not to date myself, but to point out, when I studied international business in the late 70s and early 80s, it was some esoteric area. And then it was, people wanted to know about it, but it wasn't core. The truth of the matter is, over the last 30, 40 years, it's hard to differentiate business from international business, especially in South Florida. Everything we do is interconnected. We talk about globalization. We talk about how one country impacts the other country. We talk about the ability to be the capital of Latin America.
Correct.
That all comes from creating an economic infrastructure, creating an airport where people can get here, investing in people who have multiple skill sets, whether it's cultural or whether it's language skills, and bringing that all to South Florida. My first job that I had, a professional job, was doing country risk analysis.
Okay.
And we did, the bank I worked for owned banks in Central America and in the Caribbean and had exposures all through Latin America. So we were looking at how do these countries have the ability to repay debt, or how do they need financing? And now we've gone, these many years later, to a fully integrated, globalized market where people understand the interconnections and we know that they exist and they're integral to what we do. Whereas when I started, everyone kind of looked at everything as Brazil is Brazil. Okay, Mexico is Mexico. The truth of the matter is Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Jamaica, they're all integrated into a global economic system. And that's where Miami takes the lead, because people come here from all those countries to do business with one another. So if I wanted to convene the leaders of business from all of Latin America, the easiest place to convene those people would be in Miami.
Correct. And how do you think that, from everything that you've kind of told me, from the late 70s to the early 80s, how has that mindset of what Miami is as a business, right? How has that changed from then to now? Because from what I'm seeing is that people actually really are coming here to do business, to actually live, work, and play. And then it used to be just kind of like a vacation spot. Where
I think you're right there. So I think if you go back over the decades, you're going from a kind of the vision of the future, or imagine hype of the future. Imagine people in Miami hyping things, which is kind of a cultural component of living here, to being the reality of it. So basically people had the vision and it's come into fruition, and people have realized it's a place to do business. It's a place that has the rule of law. It's the place where you can aggregate capital. It's the place where you can meet people and invest throughout the world, not just Latin America. It is geographically well situated. And it's created a professional class across many, I'll say professional class, including banking, finance, you name the area, that is Pan-Americas, which is North America, Central America, Latin America, is very much a professional group that is comfortable in every one of those areas, which makes a big difference. The other thing is people can come here from almost anywhere in the world, and they can meet people, they can know people, They can see people that are like them. They can speak a language that they're familiar with, and it's just all part of living in South Florida.
Okay.
So, at this time of year, I hear more Portuguese, okay, in my neighborhood because, you look at the school says schools are closed there because it's summer in Brazil. So a lot of families are up here. It's kind of like, how do you know when something's happened is the Canadians come down here and you hear that. So it's just an interesting place where you can meet people from anywhere. And if you're open to it, you can create a lot of opportunities.
Exactly. No, I agree 100%. And like you mentioned, it's kind of like economic cycles in its own way here in Miami, because it kind of gets kicked off with Art Basel in December, and then you have F1. We've had the Super Bowl in February in the past. It's kind of these cycles where people come and go, right? But again, it's from different countries like Portugal that you mentioned, Canada, etc. I mean, would you see yourself living in another place, Mr. Hardin?
Well, I've lived in Brazil. I enjoyed living there. Let's just say in the 80s. I've been to a lot of countries. If I were to live anywhere now, I think just simply because of people I know and maybe some shared language skills, it might be Portugal.
Portugal.
And from Miami, you just get on a plane and it's 8 hours, you get off and you're there, so it's easy to get to. And I've always enjoyed going there. Now, my daughter's lived in Spain a number of years. My wife lived in Spain and then in Bologna. So, I see those, areas, Latin America, Europe. But maybe if I really thought about it, maybe I'd switch and go to some other part of the world.
Yeah, just to see some,
just to change of pace.
Something different.
We run programs in Asia. Thailand is a great place to go and visit. So there are a lot of opportunities. But right now, if I had to go, I think it would be Portugal.
Portugal. Okay. Well, now that you kind of gave me a little introduction about who you are, your background in education, in business and real estate, now we understand, the changes that Miami has had. Can you walk me through a little bit more about how the whole process of starting, the School of Real Estate here, and how did that go, and how is it impacting us today?
Okay, so FIU was a leader in real estate education, actually going back to the 70s and 80s. But as the 80s wore on, the market changed and FIU dropped its master's program in real estate. Sometime in the mid-90s, a group of individuals from industry came to FIU, many of whom are active in the Miami Association of Realtors or CCIM group, and said, we need to move forward again and start the program. So they had an initiative to kind of get it going, and then kind of got it moving ahead, and then when I came here 20 years ago, we really accelerated that.
Okay.
It was during the first boom, if you remember, the condo boom, the condo conversion boom of the mid 2000s. So we came and we jumped in, and we're doing great, and then we had to, in essence, deal with the crash. And I think the crash was one of the better things for Miami because it taught people that there's more to real estate than just buying and selling, that you have to manage the asset, that you have to think about long-term investment, and you really have to focus on who the end users of the product are.
Correct.
So we really got started subsequent to that with a major endowment gift from the Hollo family, and just started growing the master's program. And we have people who work in every part of the real estate industry. So people forget that real estate is not just sales, it's not just commercial brokerage, it's not residential, it's not luxury. It is everything that goes into building the built environment. So everywhere you look is real estate, but that real estate takes a management. That real estate may have a loan on it. That real estate may need facilities management. So, and it may be owned by a group from Latin America who needs on-site property managers. So we have people, and we teach people that there's a business of real estate, the business of real estate, which is the comprehensive, how does real estate as an industry and as an economic driver work? And that's helped us because we have people who do almost any type thing you can think of in real estate.
Correct.
And the best thing is many of our students don't even know these jobs exist until they come talk to us. They don't know that you can be an investment analyst for a family wealth office, that you can sell luxury units, that you can be a commercial broker and specialize in industrial space, or you can be entrepreneurial in building the 6 and 8 and 12 unit townhome communities that are infill locations in South Florida, where if you can figure out how to do it, you can do very well financially. So, when I look at our graduates, they're almost in every facet of real estate that you can think of, from lending money to putting equity on the table to being in general contracting areas, architecture. Just got an email today from one of our ex-students who went out on his own as a commercial appraiser and has been working with one of the big shops here. If you look at Miami and you look at the commercial appraisal group, it's going to be dominated by FIU graduates.
Yes.
So we were at we had a CCIM conference last week. Probably half the members of the CCIM chapter in Miami-Dade are FIU graduates.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear.
You can't go anywhere without finding FIU people in real estate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the most beautiful things I would tell you about the program here at FIU, and just overall the atmosphere here at FIU and in the School of Real Estate, is that it opens up the eyes of many students who don't see real estate as an actual profession or a career, which that was my case as well. I mean, you hear, and we've seen it in the movies, in the news articles after the '08 crash and the financial crisis, that people would kind of look down upon you if you're a real estate agent or a commercial broker, and they kind of see it as a second-hand career, right? But here, I think we're kind of opening the eyes that, hey, like, real estate, it's an opportunity for, especially here in Miami, to, one, build wealth, to build connections, to give back to the community, but really to grow and develop as a person. And that's one of my favorite things here personally.
So if you look at what is the largest by valuation asset class in the world, it's real estate. Okay, when you throw in financial instruments related to real estate, including debt, mortgages, CMBS, RMBS, it makes it even a greater component of the total wealth in the world. So one of the things that I always find interesting is that not every school of business teaches real estate.
Yes.
And I always wonder why that is, when real estate in all its, components is a huge component for jobs creation, for wealth aggregation, and for being entrepreneurial. And I think part of it is that it is so broad of an industry.
Correct.
That people don't focus on one thing. They go, oh, I know someone who does that or that. But then you don't realize that, oh, there's a whole group of people that makes commercial real estate construction loans. There's a whole group of people that does CMBS mortgage originations. There are whole people who do servicing on that. There are corporations to do that. We have prop tech firms that look at how we use energy in every building, or could be in every building, where we can be more efficient. We're doing a study here on something such as a basic thing is how many units of residential properties in Miami-Dade County are on septic tanks, and how does that affect the value of those properties? And it's about 120,000.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
So you look at that, and you look at the state of Florida, and you have about 2.7 million housing units that are on septic tanks. Okay.
First time hearing that.
And what does that mean? That it has to impact the water, water quality, impacting the aquifers potentially with sea level rise pushes the freshwater aquifers up. So it all runs together, but you would think we live in one of the densest, most developed counties in America, and we have, literally 13 or 14% of our population that lives in a housing unit that's on a septic tank.
Wow.
And so the fun thing is, if you're curious, well, Does that add value, detract value? What are the nuances of being on? What if you have well water? Those are all things that come into play, and you learn in real estate, which is what impacts value, what impacts whether someone's willing to buy it, sell it, trade it, which makes it interesting is, every day is different.
Yes. And Mr. Hardin, you mentioned specifically all the programs that we have here at the Hollo School of Real Estate, the master's program as well, the undergraduate program, but specifically to you, what is your role in growing the program?
Well, I think we look at what we're doing in three kind of a three-legged stool.
Okay.
Which is you have the academic component. Okay, what is the academic component related to research? Okay, and then we have, are we getting our students ready for a career? Okay, so how do we work to make sure the curriculum works? So that's number one. Number two, and then the final component is how are we engaging as a university and how are we engaging our students with industry? So how are we having impact with regard to industry? Okay. So when I look at, how am I measuring it, whether we're impactful? Well, we're number one in the world in research productivity in real estate. We have a great curriculum at the undergraduate and graduate level, so we're teaching material that people need that go into the industry. And now we have great ties with industry, so we're able to be fully engaged and have everyone fully engaged with creating what? A professional group of individuals who want to be in the real estate area, whether it's commercial real estate, residential, lending money, but in essence creating the human capital that allows us to build a 40-story tower, to sell luxury branded units, to hopefully figure out how to create more workforce and affordable housing. We know how to do that, and we're having an impact on our community by doing that because what should we all want to happen in the world? Everyone should be able to have access to a place to live that is of a sufficient quality, because that allows and affords them the opportunity to build on that. So we should be making sure that everyone in our community has access to quality housing. Now that's difficult, but it's not hard to do because everyone needs that, and once they get that, then they can spend time on education, then they can spend time on building their business. They're not worried about having to find substandard or unaffordable housing. So, if you want to think about anything in the world, anywhere you've ever been, I always like to say, think about where you've been and think about that built environment. What does it feel like? What does it look like? Do you like how it's laid out? Do you like the treescapes? Mm-hmm. Do you like the neighborhoods? Because in the end, we're all responsible for the built environment that we live in. If it's not what we want, it's because we as at the local level, at the state level, at the county level, have not sufficiently built out kind of the policy component to create where we want to live.
Yes.
So if you don't like it, it's partly your fault for not being involved.
Exactly.
Go to the zoning meetings, understand how it works, change the rules that don't benefit, affordable housing, because everywhere you go, real estate is still local.
Yeah, exactly. And what happens is a lot of times where developers come in and kind of have these meetings with these community members. A lot of them look at developers like if they're going to ruin the land and completely change everything. But David Martin always talks about that it's very important that we sit down as a community and we actually see developers and change the perception of who they are, as they're not only just allowing to build more, better, more cohesive communities, but it's really changing the landscape of where the people live. Because there's still a lot of work to be done here in Miami, even though we're very landlocked. But I think these conversations have to be set and done with the community members instead of just kind of letting them go away.
Right, and we had David at our conference in November and had the opportunity to speak with him, and He's had a great project that includes retail and multifamily. So it's actually thinking outside the box to say, I have this land parcel, how can we make it better? How can we integrate it into the community, make it easier and accessible for people to have access to the amenities they need? And of course, you know, he's a local person. He grew up here in South Florida, and now has come back and has done a great job working with the real estate community here. So, you know, David's an entrepreneur, came to Miami and is making things happen. And that's kind of the way the real estate market has worked down here. If you're creative, you work hard, you have a great chance for succeeding.
Exactly. One of my favorite things that he always speaks about is just when he is creating these projects and these communities is to make them as urban as possible. I mean, you think, why do people like a lot of European cities, or why do they retire? Right? It's because they have that walkable sense. They have trees. They have the local restaurant or neighborhood or grocery store. And I think that's one of the things that he's done an unbelievable job in, and is really creating these environments here in Miami.
Yeah, because every city Miami is a great place, but it's really a group of neighborhoods.
Exactly.
Brickell is different than even, you know, the roads, or you just go a mile or two down the road and it's different. So part of it is, how do we create the neighborhoods that people want to live in?
Yes.
And people choose the neighborhood. They choose the city and then they choose the neighborhood. And it's always good to, and that's why I say, that's why it's your responsibility to have that built environment. What are you allowing in there and I'm going to put in one caveat, which, while being inclusive, meaning we use exclusionary zoning in many areas to, in essence, say we can't have certain things. But if you're really thinking about the urban footprint, what you need to think about is, how is everything working together? How is that system or that ecosystem working? Not just perhaps your neighborhood or a small neighborhood. How is that connected with the next neighborhood or the school system or transit to get to the airport? How does that all work together so that we can have a win-win? And I think you know, we've had issues in the urban and in real estate where, you know, not in my backyard, exclusionary zoning, things like that actually are detrimental to the long-term health of a community.
And knowing kind of these good problems, I would say, that we have, how do you think FIU's, you know, School of Real Estate is tackling these issues? And really, how do you think, you know, the school is different than the others around the country?
So one of the ways I think that we're really different in the way we educate people is that our master's program recognizes the fact that everyone's not going to be a commercial real estate investor or analyst. So we allow our program to have enough breadth that people can say, you know, I want to be an asset manager. I want to do valuation. I want to go into luxury. I want to do other things because I know that those are opportunities for me. A lot of the programs that we've seen, it's like they're very good at one thing. Okay, we have students that are successful across every avenue that you can have in real estate, and that's what you need. So for us, it's to allow enough flexibility in what we teach that people can have different career paths. So I think that helps there. The other side is that we do a lot of work with regard to research that's very specific to understanding resiliency, to understanding the value of quality schools. We have a paper that we're looking at with regard to quality of building and related to some issues. In that context, we are working in the condo space to look at the implications of the new group of condo laws with regard to reserves and with regard to recertification, because those are going to have some very big impacts in what we do here, and a lot of unintended consequences as well. Which is, it sounds great, and we should have been doing it, but we're going to have some, especially middle market condo projects that are under reserved dramatically. And the question is, how do you preserve that unit and the people? How do you preserve that condominium and the people who live there because they should have an opportunity to stay
Yes.
if they can, and we have to be very mindful of that. So.
And Mr. Hardin, what would you say to that? It could be high schooler, he or she is in 11th grade or 12th grade,
Right.
deciding on where they're going to go, where they're going to take their future. What would you tell them, before coming here, and kind of what's your advice for them?
Well, I think it's to be curious, to ask questions, to figure out, what does someone actually do? What do you do every day? How did your career path go? What education did you need? And to sit down with people who might do things that you've never even thought of. But my big take on everything has always been to say, be curious and ask questions. Okay, so let's say you know a friend of yours whose brother or sister is a CPA. Okay, certified, public accountant. Well, what do they even do? Okay, you say it's accounting. Well, maybe they don't even do any accounting. They do data analytics, or they work on mergers and acquisitions, or they actually work in private equity or at a bank. So to find out what are those unique career paths that people have that you really don't know. Most of the jobs that are going to be created in the future, we don't even know they're going to exist yet. So find something you're interested in, that you're passionate about, that you enjoy doing. One of the real negatives when we had the boom in 2005, 2006, for me, was we had so many people flocking to real estate that really had never thought why they wanted to be in real estate. They thought, look, people are making money, the market's going up, it's a good time to get in. And I remember going, but is this what you want to do? So actually, the good consequence of, in essence, the recession is we got back to the core group of people who really wanted to be in the real estate industry. They didn't just somehow fall into it. They made conscious choices that, you know what, I like real estate. I like seeing things happen. I like making things happen. This is where I want to spend my career. I don't know where it'll go, but this is the area I want to be in. And so the sooner you can find that, the better. And then, work to get educated, work to have a network, work to have a group of people you trust to provide some feedback for, and recognize that it may not be easy every day.
Yes.
And the world will be totally different 5 years from now than it is today, or 10 years from now. But if you're in an industry that you want to be in, and real estate is an industry that we're always going to have, because you always have to have a place to live, or a place to go, or a place to, if everything is done by AI and we don't do anything, what do you want? You want leisure activities. So you have to find out, what are those opportunities. And guess what? You can't export I talked about economic base, but I can't pick up this building and move it. What I can do is create an environment where people want to live here. And they bring their talents, their wealth, their human capital, their networks, and that's kind of what's happened in Miami. It's basically, we've become an aggregator of wealth and talent.
Yes. That's
and if you have wealth and talent, that's a great combination, because wealth and talent can merge to create business opportunities. And you might have a great bunch of ideas, but you need some capital and you need time. And part of what having access to wealth and that is allow companies and buildings and new entities the time to actually get their footing and start running, which is, it's a great idea, but you have to have, how long is your basically runway?
Yes. And how would that advice change for a recent new grad from the School of Real Estate here at FIU, or a graduate as well?
Well, I think as a younger person, you need to be open to what might those new things be. I mean, everybody can say we have brokerage, we have this, but what about prop tech? What about managing or doing asset management? What about being that liaison with the group of individuals that came from country X that owns a portfolio of properties here? How do you work with perhaps family offices? So, which is kind of a niche area, but it's an area where most family offices have an exposure to real estate. So they need someone to be the analyst to understand it. So I guess just keep searching and being open to what things are. Learn what you don't want to do, because that's a good thing. Like, you may not know what you want to do, but you should be checking off what you don't want to do. You don't want to wake up and say, yeah, I should have done that. But if you tried it and you evaluate, say, yeah, I chose no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's important as well, because, I mean, you kind of pick a general career path and you kind of go and extend above it.
Right. Yeah. You go, yeah, I'm interested, but where's that path? What's the one that you really want to wake up and do every day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the last question that I have for you before we go is just, now knowing everything that you've kind of discovered these past 30 years working in real estate, now working in education, how would have done your career different, and in what specific space in real estate would you have pursued?
Well, I would have bought Bitcoin when it was really low, but no, if I weren't doing what I was doing now, I have an educational background that allows me easily to be in institutional real estate.
Okay.
And I probably would have been doing some form of institutional, whether it's in the REIT world or whether it's in, private large-scale funds. The people that I know, that's what they do, that I've known over the years. But if I had to say what would I do now or what would I be interested in now, it would be infill entrepreneurial projects.
Okay.
Not huge scale, but mid-scale, little, things that I hate to say I could work with a family member or my sister or nephew, we could do, and no one can tell us what to do, and if we can just do it, we have access to expertise and capital. We're just looking for the opportunities. Because I'm at a stage in my life where I can kind of do what I want or could, and on the institutional side, you don't have that opportunity. You have, if we're running a conference up in Palm Beach and we have all the institutional investors going there, you go there, you do the dog and pony show, you do A, B, or C. So I think at this stage it would be, let's be entrepreneurial. Let's find that in-spot location that we can do the 12 townhomes that are in a great location in Coral Gables. Let's look to do, maybe a small infill project for multifamily rental, those type things where the span of control is a little bit shorter.
Yes, something that you can really have your eyes on.
But it's entrepreneurial without it's small enough that you don't need a lot of outside players, but large enough to be interesting.
Exactly. Well, Mr. Hardin, thank you so
much
for your time. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it. And,
yes.
It's always good to talk about real estate. We spend all our time living in it, financing it, talking about it, speculating on it, figuring out what's the difference between a Mercedes building and a Porsche building. But that's the fun part of it.
And that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, it is. So everything's great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today, and thank you for just allowing us for this space. And where can you find Mr. Hardin for any information about the Hollo School of Real Estate?
Yeah, you can just type in FIU with my name and you'll get all my contact information. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn and all that, so relatively easy to find. But we are having fun every day, and part of the fun is being involved in an industry that changes all the time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.